Because the second you lose sight of that and you don't test it, then you just get in your head and you just make yourself God. So that's an important part. Now, the fourth step, okay? The fourth step is increasing your range, okay? Increasing your range. See, there's something sneaky that gets in the way of hearing God's voice that a lot of people don't understand. It's their range becomes a certain way where they don't hear things outside of what they believe they can hear, okay? Now check this out. There's a scripture in the Bible that talk about this. The prophet prophesies by faith, okay? The prophet prophesies by faith, okay? And it talk about the prophet prophesies by his, according to his own measure of faith, okay? So now check this out. Check this out. I'm not calling people prophets or anything like that. I'm just using that biblical principle in real life and showing you how this thing works. If you only believe, if your range is like this, and you only believe God is going to speak to you in a certain way, okay, and you're not willing to break that, what can happen to you is this. You're staying in this range, God is over here. He might hang out here for a little while, but he might come over here. And when he get over here, you won't see him, right? Because you only see God is working like this, then the devil can come in, the demons can come in with seducing spirits and give you what you want to hear, right in your little box where you say God can only be at. And it's very important that you be trying to increase your range for what you believe God may potentially say to you. That's very important. Because as long as you keep yourself and God in a box like this, okay, you're going to end up following yourself. You're going to end up following your own inclinations. You're going to end up following your own desires, okay? And so what you have to do is increase your range. Increase the range of what could God possibly be saying. Could he be saying this to me? Could he be telling me to go to Africa tomorrow? Could he be telling me to stay here? Could he be telling me to sell my house? Could he be telling me to sell my car? You know, could he be telling me to go to college? Could he be telling me to drop out? Could he be telling me to take this job? Could he be telling me to follow this calling? Okay, you have to be increasing your range like this, because the second you get like this and the enemies and seducing spirits find out about it, they will use it against you and they'll deceive you. But God is who he is, right? And he's not going to stay in your little box, okay? He's not going to stay in your little box. So you have to be increasing, widening what you're willing to hear from God. Now here's the good thing about it, okay? If you're still applying the other steps, right? You're still applying following the scriptures, still applying making space, still applying testing everything, okay? Even though your willingness on what you're willing to hear from God may go like this, God is going to stay in his own box. So he's not going to contradict the word or contradict himself in how he's speaking to you. So you'll get the fullness of who he is trying to manifest himself to you in your individual life. But he's not going to go outside of his own character as long as you keep the other stuff in alignment, okay? And you follow these things too, okay? And you're really seeking the real God, okay? So when you increase your range, okay, you don't want to increase it to something to where you're willing to follow another spirit and call it God because you're not keeping everything else in contingent, okay? So you don't want to do that. But when you increase your own range, he will keep the range of who he is in the process, okay? So it'll work itself in a proper balance and getting the fullness of God without going outside of God for your instruction, okay? And this is my last step. My last step is increasing your range of obedience. So you gotta have these other steps first. Reason why, I'm gonna tell you why you gotta have the other steps first. Because some people's range is limited based on what they're willing to obey. Some people don't believe God will tell them to sell their car because they're not willing to sell their car. So when God says something that's within his character, right? Because he can be speaking to you like the rich young ruler. That's within his character to come to you and say, sell your house, sell your material possessions, sell your car, sell your stuff, and go to this other country that I show you. That's within the range of what God may do. It's within his character. But check this out. If you don't increase your ability to obey, right, you'll hear it and just not follow it. And then eventually you'll get to a point where God isn't speaking to you as much because you're heaping judgment on yourself, because you're knowing what he's saying and not obeying it, because you ain't increased your ability to obey his voice. You ain't become a steward of what his voice is. Okay, that's why a lot of people don't hear from God, because God know these people playing games. He know that if he does speak to them, they heap judgment on themselves, because if he speak to them a clear direction on what he want them to do, he know they're gonna do the opposite and cause them to be judged. So he don't even bother speaking to them. That's why you gotta be increasing the range of your obedience, increasing what I'm able to obey. God, you know, I'm willing to sell this, I'm willing to give this up, I'm willing to stop this, I'm willing to not do this no more. Okay, and I'm talking beyond the biblical tenets of following the scriptures and moral things. I mean things in your life, just hard sacrifices, you know, hard choices, being willing to obey God in these areas. Okay, and so when you increase that, okay, and you follow all these steps together, it gets you closer on the path to hearing God's voice, because it talk about in scripture, it say in the Bible that if you seek him with your whole heart, you will find it. That is a promise. And if you do that, you follow these steps, you'll be a lot closer to hearing God's voice in your individual life. That's my message on the day. You take care.